Greetings to one and all, it's your old buddy Jay here, coming at you with some more countermeasures goodness. Welcome to the first ever episode of Intermission, which is the film part of the channel. I just thought that, I've got a whole sort of design section, I've got a gaming section, and now, I'm obviously mad on films like everybody is. So what better way to start off than with your old buddy Batman, who doesn't love a bit of Batman, and a trailer dropped this week. So I thought, what an excellent time to pull it all together and take a look at this bad boy. Now, this is the new film, which is coming out, I think, 2021. It's called The Batman, and it's looking okay. I want to talk a little bit about it now. I've obviously been carrying 40 years of Batman knowledge around with me, so excuse me if I just unleash it on the world, so apologies. It is a sort of character I've been a fan of for a long time. I've been heavily into the comics and used to draw Batman all the time as a kid, so like a lot of people do, it's sort of ingrained in my DNA, if you like. Originally Batman was created, I think, back in the late 30s by Bob Kane and Bill Finger, I believe, both who obviously started him as the kind of, vigilante detective. And then as time's gone on, he has been improved by various writers and illustrators, so people like Alan Moore and Frank Miller took this sort of character and turned him into this, darker, more complex sort of person who has a lot of issues going on, and solves crime and helps people in Gotham City, which is like the hellhole of Earth, the fictional hellhole of Earth, I should say. And also, with the whole Alan Moore and Frank Miller stuff, obviously that dispelled all the Adam West kind of camp TV 1960s stuff, which personally I never really liked. It was fine on a Saturday morning for a bit of a giggle, but it wasn't really the Batman that I liked. I always liked the Batman, kind of the 80s and 90s Batman, which is the slightly darker. And then when I was about 12 or 13, Tim Burton came out and took the Batman, turned it into a proper gothic film, which had Michael Keaton in it and Jack Nicholson as the Joker, which, when I was that age was just, it was the first 12 rated movie in the UK at the time. It was the first one that ever came out as a rated 12, and I think I just turned 12, so it was pretty cool summer going to see that, and I was a huge fan of that movie and the subsequent ones that Burton did, but not so much the Schumacher ones, which tended to lean back towards that campiness, which I didn't particularly like. I don't think they were that well received. I think they made the money, but I don't think they're critically acclaimed, if you like. This is obviously brief film history before I nail into this trailer that came out this week. It then sort of moved on to Christopher Nolan, who turned Batman into much more of a realistic character, grounding him in less of the kind of superhero, supernatural side of things, and turning him into what's essentially could be you or I, just deciding if we had the means and the money and the time and the skill to become a vigilante, then this is how you would go about it. And it became a much more realistic trilogy of films, which I still think the second one of those, The Dark Knight, is probably the best superhero film made about Batman ever, and that stands above this, what looks like this trailer is kind of echoing slightly. And then obviously more recently there was Batfleck. Good old Ben Affleck took on the however you want to say it. He took on the mantle of the Bat in the Justice League movies, and cameos in various other. I think he's in like Suicide Squad as a little cameo. And then I didn't really think that he had a fair shot at it, to be honest. I actually thought when they said that he was going to be Batman, I thought, oh no, this is going to be dreadful. And in the Justice League movie, which was total pants, he was probably the best thing in it. And actually, whenever he showed up as Batman with his kind of slightly oversized muscles and equipment and stuff, he was quite good. So I don't think he really got a good shot at it. So before the dust has settled on old Batfleck, along comes Matt Reeves, who is the director of this film, The Batman. I think he's going to trying to instill some more life into it. And there was kind of a lot of searching, I think, for somebody to kind of take over the mantle of the Bat and carry on this franchise. They ended up with Robert Pattinson, who originally I thought was a terrible actor, and he's obviously in the Twilight films, and he was briefly in Harry Potter, I think, and then that opened the doors for lots of other kind of indie style movies, which he was really good in. So I think there's one called like High Times. He's done a whole load of kind of movies that are slightly off from centre, a little bit, that have gone against his fan base a little bit, and I think they've been really successful. I think there was one, was it called Cosmopolitan or something? I don't know. There was a film he did not long after the Twilight movies, which really cemented him as a kind of a slightly more obscure actor, if you like, and everyone raves about him. I actually think he's been miscast as the Batman. I think anyone wearing the suit, it's the suit, so it could be anyone. I think the trick to casting a good Batman film is to find a really good Bruce Wayne. From this trailer, I'm not convinced that he's the guy. He doesn't quite look the part. He looks a bit too emo, he looks a bit too goth. Even though he clearly has the acting chops, I'm kind of slightly skeptical about it, and I really hope that he nails it. I mean, like my concerns about Ben Affleck. We'll call him Batfleck. My concerns about him were quashed because I thought he was quite good in the end. So maybe old Rbats can, or Rbats, as I'm going to call him from now on, can pull himself out of this one and hopefully and do a good turn. I mean, I like the style of everything. Obviously, they are struggling. I mean, the great thing about Batman, I think, one of the strongest things about him is all of the really interesting criminals that he fights. So you've got Joker in the previous films and Bane and all of those guys, and now they've got to the Riddler, which was one of the far more interesting characters in the comic books. It was just made him a little bit more of a detective, made him a smarter Batman, which they kind of didn't really spend much time on in all of the previous movies. The thing is that he's always been a detective who can kick people's asses. It was never really a kind of hard man who was just quite clever. So I think what's going to be interesting about this is if they double down on the kind of how smart he is, and he just happens to be getting by as a kind of a fighting vigilante, then I think that could be quite good. My fear is they'll just go for the typical trope of the gritty reboot, in his kind of that suit that looks a little bit too much like the old Daredevil movie, and it won't quite feel right because he's obviously playing a younger Bruce Wayne, but I do think they really need to lean into that kind of detective side of things, and I think it could be quite interesting. And I think the good thing about the Riddler is that it does force the plot to head that way, because it is all about thinking and solving puzzles, and I hope that that's something that they do kind of spend more time on. I want to talk about the design, because obviously this channel originally started, in fact it still does continue to talk about design and advertising and branding, etc. With all these films, they always go for the kind of gritty goth side of things, and there's quick cuts, and there's no sound on this other than my sort of usual background music and myself, because they're using a I didn't want to get a copyright strike for the Nirvana song that they're using over the top of this, which is all kind of a bit of a throwback to the 90s, if you like. I think that it does feel a little bit emo. I feel like they don't want to go too dark and gritty. It'd be good if it felt like it was him starting out, and I think the whole eye makeup thing and everything, I think in terms of the design of the suit, the eye makeup and the helmet and all that style, I think that's fine. I think it all looks okay. I don't know why they have to keep changing it all the time just because there's a new film coming out. Just keep it simple, I like Batfleck's suit because it stripped everything right back. It's just simple, and I think with this one, maybe it's kind of okay. I'm not really that fussed about it. He looks a little bit more ninja, which is fine. I think that's quite cool. I think that he essentially is a ninja anyway, but he's obviously taken on this mantle of fear to scare his enemies. So the suit's fine. I think that's okay. I like the design of some of the equipment. The Bat mobile looks quite good. It looks like a kind of back to basics. If I had the money, how would I soup up a car? And you kind of do it like that, I guess. So there's probably going to be a little bit of that kind of, oh, I've got a new toy to play with to fight crime, and all that sort of stuff in the film, I'm sure. I just going back to the Nolan films for a second, the best parts of those movies were always when he's not in the suit. I like it when he's Batman. He's all kind of like, talk to me, all that sort of stuff. Obviously, I do an excellent Christian Bale impression. So, as I mentioned before, voice acting, give me a call. But the best part of those films was that he was never in the suit. He was always, 90% of the time, of the first one certainly, he just was learning and basically becoming this kind of formidable fighter. And I'd love it if they did. I mean, they haven't done it here, but just sort of step it up a little bit and take a few more risks. You could do a whole movie where he's not in the suit for the whole film, and then the follow-up, he could be the inevitable sequel. He could be it could be the movie. I could see the movie posters pushing all that. And, I think that would be a way to kind of handle it in a more interesting way. So you get to spend more time with the character rather than the actual character of Bruce Wayne, rather than this dude who's just in his suit, who could essentially be anybody. Just do something else. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to constantly be in Gotham. I mean, you could do, you could do a Gotham set in like the 1800s and make it a sort of really old style movie, or you could do like feudal Japan, or like like a European romp. Anywhere, I think I've seen Gotham enough. Anywhere but that kind of pseudo America in the rain. It would be far more interesting to me, but it looks like they've gone that way anyway, so who am I to say? It's what people want, I guess. So I guess that's sort of where this is heading. There are sort of throwbacks to various characters in here. I think Colin Farrell is playing the Penguin in this movie, and he does actually show up in this trailer, even though you probably wouldn't recognise him. I think he's the kind of slightly chubby dude. I'll sort of point him out when he comes back up. But I think there's some interesting things going on here, and they've got throwbacks to kind of Joker makeup and all that kind of stuff. So whether those crooks that he fights are actually Joker cronies, or whether they're sort of the penguins, I can never say that right. Whether they're old pengies, criminal sort of underdog little dogs, then who knows? I think that I can never remember the name of that guy, but he's in Westworld and he's playing Commissioner Gordon. But I think he'd be far more suited for Lucius Fox. But I guess that's just me. I think this film looks fine. I think they probably could have done something a little bit different with it. Like I said, maybe different setting, or maybe it all feels a little bit Gotham television to me. Like the TV show, but with guest appearance by Rbats. And in the height of all, the kind of hype of all of this coming out recently, it also turns out that the Batfleck has returned. So he's coming back for HBO's Snyder Cut of the Justice League movie. So now we have two Batman in the running, and there's also talk of Michael Keaton, which I think is confirmed actually, that he's returning for some of the future DC movies as a kind of older, wiser Batman. I think there's like a sort of parallel universe thing going on where he's going to make an appearance. So I'm actually really excited about that, because I thought Keaton was an excellent Batman. I do think that even just sort of talking about those sort of three instances, we are in the same situation that all of the Marvel movies are facing now, which is there's an absolute saturation and dilution of what makes Batman interesting. There's very little mystery or kind of intrigue about this guy. They're looking into every single tiny facet of him, and I think that it just feels a little bit like they could have taken it in a different direction. He obviously makes money, so why not flood the market and stick him on every cinema screen? If you want more, then you can check out YouTube, where people like me are dissecting his every move and comic book, or there are video games coming in with him in. There's animated Netflix features. There's a Lego movie. Gotham TV, yeah, that's another one. And there's the multiverse movies they're talking about, where Batman's going to be everywhere. He'll be reading, or he'll be on the news next. That's all from Batman. Here's Alfred with the weather. I just think there's just too much of him going on at the moment. And while I'm sure I'll be the first to go and see this movie, I'm not that excited about it, to be totally honest. And the responses I've been seeing over social media and various other sort of reviewers is the opposite of me, which will seem generally is that everyone's really excited about it, but I can't quite get there. Maybe in time. So I get ready for a bit of Batman saturation, or Baturation, as I'll be calling it from now on. That's totally copyright to me, by the way. And I think we're looking at potentially a massive dilution of what makes Batman interesting. There's Colin Farrell. And and I am sort of slightly concerned that this is kind of the tipping point of this sort of franchise being interesting to me personally. Maybe I'm just getting old and grumpy. That's probably it. I'm sure the kids out there are absolutely loving it. They love a bit of old Rbats. So I'm going to keep saying that because I think it's funny. And that's about it for my trailer review of the Batman. Now I'll probably do a film review when it comes out, hopefully next year, or if there's some crazy coronavirus thing going on still, or comes back or whatever, then maybe 2025, who knows. But hopefully not. Hopefully we'll get to see it. And I hope you enjoy it. And I'm sure it will be everything it's tipped to be. So until then, be good, stay safe, be kind to one another. Cheers.